Well, it happened. Seems to be my luck with cassette decks. But anyways, this is actually the second one that I have purchased from the thrift store. The first one was actually a Sharp RTW600C. Actually, sorry, it's just an RTW600, of which you can see some photos. I didn't make a video of that one, and that one worked perfectly fine when I brought it home. I set it all up in its final resting place. That was before I had the CD changer, of course. Set it all up in its final resting place, powered it on, put a cassette in, and found out that it would no longer play anything. Now, the deck would work, however, nothing would come out of it, and the VU meters weren't moving, so it was a problem between the mechanism and the boards, the electronics inside. And I never did figure out what that was, so I just returned that one. This one actually has a no return, no exchange policy on it. It's a, well, I'm not sure if you could read that. It's an RS-TR180 by Technics. This one, too, worked perfectly fine when I brought it home. And, set it all up. It still worked perfectly fine. I made a video of that. I might publish it to YouTube, but I don't really like the way it came out, so I don't know. I might have even deleted it by now. However, since then I haven't made a video about it. I let it sit for a month while I figured out how to hook it up. Then I figured I'd use this cheap stereo, even though I don't like it. I don't like that setup. The setup is actually kind of junky. Plugged it in, hooked it all up, tested it. This deck has always made an awful noise. Still was doing that, and it would still play. This one played for a bit, and then the belt snapped, or one of the belts snapped, which is unfortunate. I actually pulled the belt out, and you can see pieces of it on the floor there. There's one piece, and there's another piece, and I think that's another piece over there. It was a very sad sight to see. The other belt is in good shape, and in fact, this one had it replaced with a rubber band, which is odd. It still works, so, but I'm guessing that somebody did something stupid with it, and that's why it makes an awful noise. But now it's developed another problem, and I'm going to show you what that problem is. We're going to listen to the awful noise that it makes. Plug it in, turn it on. Just like that. And you can see on the unit, we've got deck 2, a counter, VU meter, and there's your auto reverse mode. I can change that if I really want. Oh no, that's Dolby. I can change my auto reverse mode if I want to, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. This is one of those fancy computer controlled auto reverse, auto sensing cassette, auto everything decks that is supposed to be simpler, but in reality is a lot more complicated when something goes wrong. Watch what happens when I insert the cassette. It's supposed to switch to deck 1. And as you can see, it does not, and what's more is I cannot change the deck, which tells me that there's something wrong. And something is definitely wrong because pushing play does absolutely nothing. Nothing. So let's pop the cover and see what's going on. I figured I'd have a lot more natural light to work with, but I guess not. It's actually raining outside now. Sad day indeed. I guess I'm going to just have to deal with what I have. Oh yeah, I'd also like to point out that there's a screw missing in the back. There's supposed to be 2, one here and one over here, but I only have one right here, so shows me that somebody who didn't know what they were doing was in here. Or somebody who just wasn't as careful as they should have been was in here. Now let's take this lid off carefully. And have a look. What has gone wrong here? Okay, there you can see the rubber band. It looks like everything is alright. I'm not sure what would have gone wrong. Unless this ribbon cable failed, in which case this whole mechanism is screwed. I'm not sure what goes where. I could probably figure it out with a multimeter and do all of that. But I'm not sure. This is the sensor right here, these two things. I wonder if I could hardwire it so that it would always sense a cassette. That might actually be dangerous. I might not do that. I think they're light sensors, actually. I'm not sure. But I'm not sure why it's not detecting a cassette, because there's a cassette in there, unless the mechanism has dropped a little bit. Let me try something here. Well, folks, it turns out to be the simplest things ever. This connector was not making good contact, it looks like, because I reseated it, and we have deck 1. And what's more, it plays. So that would also explain why a couple of times when I was using it, it was stopping. You know, it would stop halfway through a tape. When it was playing a song, it was playing a song fine, but it would stop all of a sudden. You could never figure out why it was doing that, but it turns out this ribbon cable needed to be reseated. So that was a simpler fix than I was expecting. I was expecting to have to take this whole damn mechanism apart, but it looks like it's working. Let me hook up some. Let me hook up the thing to the stereo, and we'll see if we can get any output out of it. All right, so I have it hooked up now to the stereo. Let's see what happens. This tape actually has some issues. I can't rewind or fast forward it because it's actually broken. I'm not sure what's wrong with it. It can play fine, but I can't rewind it or fast forward it in any of my decks. That one, or this one. So, I don't know what the deal is. But it's another reason why this has become another test tape for me. I actually want to rewind this a little bit so we can listen to a song. Just a little bit of a song. But let me try this. As you can probably tell, it's working. And playing at the right speed, unlike everything else. That's enough of that before I get my video muted by the Music Mafia. So it works, and there you have it. A little simple fix involving a recalcitrant ribbon cable going to, this is actually deck 1 block, that's what that's labeled. That goes to deck 1, obviously. And that goes to the board, which I believe controls, let's see here, what does this control? Should control just about everything. The positive 5 volts going to the circuitry that's on there. The motor, there's a ground, and there should be a couple of sensors in there as well. And also the return for the audio, which goes into this. Well, actually, I believe the audio goes into this deck, which can then do, you know, dubbing if that's so needed. So this deck is actually what sends the audio through into this and out to your speakers or whatever you happen to have it hooked up to. These are Elna capacitors, for those that are wondering. I believe that they're good quality, but I have no idea. I'm not even sure what those are. That's Elna. I think most of the audio caps are Elna, but those two I have no idea. And some of these little tiny ones, I don't think I'm going to be able to read those. They're probably Elna as well. I think most of these are Elna caps, which are not bad, at least not as far as I know. They're actually pretty good. They're audio-rated cassette, not audio-rated cassettes, audio-rated capacitors. So that's a benefit. I will need to take this particular deck apart, but I'm not really sure I even want to, because it looks fairly complicated to take this one apart. You have to take off all the screws. There's actually a screw missing from that deck, too. Huh. That's interesting. So somebody probably already tried to take this apart before me. I didn't even notice that before. Wow. But you can see all of the sensors. I believe these two are for the cassette itself, and that one is for the record tab. So if you have a cassette in there that's not recordable, it will not allow you to try and record that or anything like that. I'm not even sure how you would go about recording on this. I think there's that button on there. I figure that while I'm at it, I might as well make this my video of the cassette deck. We could take a look at the back and at the front. We can look at the controls and all of that. It says Dolby Noise Reduction, manufactured under license from Dolby Laboratories. There's your licensing for the Dolby. I believe it's got Dolby B. It might have Dolby C on it. Caution! Risk of electric shock. Do not open. Well, I'm afraid that ship has already sailed. There's your... what is that? ICES. That's electrical... sort of like the FCC. There's your FCC notification, part 15. There's your patent information. We've got our inputs and outputs. They're RCA, your left and your right, for both recording and for playback. It is a hard volume. There's no like output for headphones or anything that you can control the volume of. It's just one output. It's line level, and that's it. You control it with whatever it's connected to. In this case, this over there, which I'm going to have to reset because I actually amplified it. And I've got it set up for my studio, but that's a little bit lower than it would be for anything else. I'm going to have to reset that. Oh well. We've got our serial number and our other information. I'm trying not to wash out the camera with that. We've got two unswitched AC outlets. 0.8 amps max, 100 watts. There's our input, which actually takes a keyed... get that out of there. A keyed AC cord, although you could just use a normal AC cord, as I found out. I'm not sure what the difference is. It didn't seem to cause any problems while I was using it, but I'd rather use the keyed one. This is not the original cord either. This was one that I supplied myself. It did not come with a cord in the store. Again, you can see what I paid for it. You can take a look at the front. Without breaking anything, hopefully. We've got two decks, both of which are auto reverse. This one has the Dolby B noise reduction, and I suppose that Dolby does not work on this. This is actually the fancier of the two decks. It can record, and it's got the Dolby and all of that fancy jazz. And there's deck number one. Like I said before, this is completely computer controlled, all feather touch logic, auto recording level, and all of that fancy-pantsy stuff. But it doesn't have any of the good things that I think are in cassette decks, like the piano controls and the easy operation. You just click one button, you don't have to wait for it to do anything. I have the auto reversing feature turned off because personally I don't think auto reverse is a useful feature. Well, it is nice, but I find that half the time on these old decks it doesn't even work, so... there you go. There's your power button. Again, this is a modern piece. I'm not sure how old this is. It's got to be from the late 90s, early 2000s, but it's got... it's always on. It's only got standby, and that's it. And I've actually noticed that it keeps the heater lines on, which I might go ahead and demonstrate at the end of this video. Got a counter reset button for the tape counter. Got your open button for the deck over here, which is actually pretty dangerous. That could get stuck pretty easily, and I see a lot of these on eBay, similar units, that have got a tape in them that the user can't get out because it's locked it in there for one reason or another. Synchronous start right there, which is actually for the recording feature. If you want to dub from one cassette to the other, you press synchro start, and I believe it'll start the two of them right then, so you don't screw up your recording or anything like that. Recording speed for high-speed dubbing. Your deck switch, which doesn't actually do anything if you don't have one thing in one deck or the other. If you've got stuff in both decks, you can switch between the two, but otherwise, nope. Dolby noise reduction, sorry. There's your auto reverse mode switch. Recording pause. I'm not sure what that does. Maybe that starts recording. You're open for deck number 2, and of course your play controls, which you can do both forward play and reverse play. Reverse, or rewind and fast forward. Deck number 1 is also slightly broken in that it will not play forward, and also rewind and fast forward do exactly the same thing, even though one of them changes the counter one way and the other one does it the other way. I'm not quite sure what the deal is there. Maybe the belt's not in the right place or something, or the mechanism's a little bit jostled. I wouldn't be surprised at all. This mechanism does not work. Like I said, it's missing a belt. I need to put a new belt or a rubber band or something in there. We can see the display here. This is a vacuum fluorescent display. We can also see a couple of, I'm not sure if you can see unused indicators in there. You can see the heater lines, or I can see the heater lines anyways. Looks like play forward and back, recording and play forward and back. We've got a time there. I'm not sure what the indicator on the end does. I've never seen it come on. Actually, sorry, no, that's a total object lie. The indicator on the end there of those alphanumeric things here at the top belongs to the counter, and the one on the other side is actually a little wheel that turns when the cassette's playing, which is interesting. Speed, I'm not sure what the H indication there does. I've never seen it come on. Dolby, deck 1 or 2. There's your auto reverse modes and stuff. I'm going to plug this in and we could take a look at some of the things that it does. I got it plugged in now. I'm not sure if you can see. The heater lines are on. Maybe just barely. I can see them. But the heater lines are in fact on, and if we press power, it all comes on like that. So we can see deck 1. I want to put something in here. You can see that's considerably less noisy. I want to do this. Put a cassette in here. Switches to deck 2 automatically. It should, hopefully, switch to deck 1 automatically. Could grab another cassette from in here. I don't know, this seems as good as anything else. So I'm not going to be playing anything. Put that in, and we can then switch between the two decks, just like that. Synchro start. Let's see what this does. I guess it doesn't do anything because I don't have a recordable cassette in there. Here's your play features and all of that. Counter reset. Speed, normal or high, doesn't do anything unless you're recording. Dolby noise reduction, B. I believe there's a higher unit that could do Dolby C, which is what the C in that thing there means. Will you focus? Jeez. It's worse than my JVC camcorder. Seriously. And then we could change our reverse mode. This is just reverse and keep playing the other way. I'm not quite sure what this one does. Maybe it plays from one end to the other, or it switches halfway through or something. I don't know. But I just have it set on this. Play one way, stop, and then play the other way if I want to, although it won't play the other way because this deck is messed up. And I believe that is going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments, feel free to leave them down below. Sorry I didn't go in depth with a teardown or anything, but it wasn't needed. And I feel that messing with a deck, messing with a cassette deck mechanism is not exactly a good thing to do unless you know exactly what you're doing or it is warranted. Mostly if it's warranted. I don't really want to tear a precision mechanism like this apart unless I absolutely have to. So there's one thing. This is CP666 signing off. I hope to see you next time. Till then.